Hi everyone, we're going to be going over Chapter 4, Determining Menu Prices. So we're going to talk about the external and internal factors that influence menu pricing. List and explain the different menu pricing formulas. That will also be our homework for this week. Describe the menu product mix and menu engineering. Explain the process used to identify food cost percentage problems. Describe the process for determining menu modifications and price adjustments. So why prices matter? The menu and its prices have that direct influence on profit. Knowing the cost of everything on the menu is the only way to accurately identify high or low profit items. That's why we focused last week just on the recipes, so we were able to we know the accurate recipe, which will be able to give us the accurate cost. But ultimately, it is the customer who decides the price, and this is done with their perceived value. So some factors affecting menu prices. So as you see on this exhibit here, you have the competition, the price-value relationship, and then that markup differentiation all make up the selling price. So market factors are what potential customers are willing to pay for a specific item, and what the competition charges all influence the pricing decisions. Some menu items you will sell at lower prices or with a lower cost. The goal is for the total menu to average out to acceptable food cost percentage. Now, menu pricing should be driven by the market. However, food cost is obviously an important part of that process. Some external factors to your menu pricing. Obviously, your competition. Sometimes in order to get customers to choose you, you may have to meet or even beat a competitor's price. Now, the market-driven pricing. This is determined by the market, which is usually a region. You got a couple of states. A little cluster of the U.S. will break up to a region. The prices are determined by the market. They tend to be on a more moderate to low end of the pricing range. You have that demand-driven price. Now, the theory is the operation can set a price based on the demand for the product or service. So that price-value relationship, that connection between the selling price and the worth to the customer, that value, do they feel like they're getting their money's worth? And then the markup differentiation. Because there is a good range of expectations in the market, different categories of food can get different markups. So your internal factors, your costs. The manager needs to know the cost of one standard portion to correctly set the menu. This includes the food, labor, and operating expense. Now, we focus mostly on just the food. Later on, through the rest of the semester, we're going to be going over the labor and operating expenses. So, market price. For this expensive item, such as seafood, allows it to be charged for a profit to be made. Excuse me, so this even kind of fits into external factors. If you think about Colorado, we are a landlocked state. So it's going to be more expensive for us to be getting seafood delivered to us. Even the quality of the seafood coming to us. And of course, the portion size. That needs to be controlled or it will heavily impact your food cost and your profit. So establishing the food and beverage prices. So setting menu prices is more of an art than an equation. We've already talked about there are quantifiable, non-quantifiable approaches to determine selling prices. So the markup should be determined, the difference between the actual cost of producing an item and then the price listed on the menu. So there's 4 ways of figuring out menu prices. The first one's the factor method. Now, this is the most popular. It's also called the simple markup or your food cost percentage method. And this works better if you already have a well-established business that has some historical data to run from. So it's definitely your most easiest one. You're just going to divide 100% divided by your desired food cost percentage to find the factor. And second, once you have that factor, multiply it by the menu item cost to get the selling price. So we have 1 divided by 0.34, which will give you the factor of 2.94. You take that 2.94 and you multiply by the menu cost. So for this item, it's $2.72. So that math does not add up. Excuse me for that typo of $8. That would it actually only equals $5.66. I think I was probably think of adding in operating expenses and labor. So no, that's only a $5.66. Now there's the contribution margin method. Now this, you can estimate the number of customers to be served in a certain time period, the non-food operating cost, and desired profit. You need to know all that before you can use this method. So step 1, we're going to get the non-food cost plus profit. Add those two together and then divide by the number of customers. That'll give you your average contribution margin. So you just want to take the food cost of that item and then add the contribution margin into it, which will give you your selling price. So let's say there's 28,000 non-food costs plus 5,500 profit, and divide that by the 10,000 customers. You'll have a $3.35 average CM per customer. Let's say whatever this item is, it's $3.22 cost. Add that $3.35 in, and you have a selling price of $6.57. Next one is the ratio pricing method. So once again, we need to know the food cost, non-food cost, and the target profit. Goodness gracious. So step 1, I'm going to find that non-food cost plus the target profit, add those two together, divide by the food cost, and that will give you your ratio. So then we just want the food cost times the ratio, and that'll give us the non-food cost and target profit. So now we're just going to add it all together. The food cost and then that last one, the non-food cost plus the target profit, will give you the selling price. So here's a little example here to try to wrap your brain around this one. So 64,000 non-food plus our 5,100 target profit. Add those two together. We're going to divide it by the food cost, which was $32,000. So it'll give us a 2.16 ratio. So the 3.2 food cost times it by the 2.16 ratio will give us the 6.91. It's the non-food cost and the target profit. So take that and add it to the food cost. It'll be a $9.91 menu price. Big difference from the other prices. Those were $5, $6. This one's getting closer to $10. Of course, it is a little bit different. We didn't use all the same numbers. I should have done that. And then we have the prime cost method. It focuses on the labor cost involved with the food preparation. So you need to know the direct labor spent preparing that specific item. And then we're going to add that to the prime cost. So you're going to be able to do a direct labor cost. A time and motion study is conducted for each item's preparation. Then, an ideal prime cost percentage must be determined and in the following formula. So we have our prime cost divided by the prime cost percentage equals that selling price. So let's say the prime cost for this item is $3.50. excuse me, so the 3.5 prime cost divided by that 45% prime cost percentage, pretty low in this restaurant, will give you a total of a $7.77 for a menu price. We also have the Q factor. Sorry, before we go any further, I want to make sure you guys check out page 91 and the manager's memo. We don't talk a lot about this in this class, but I want you to look at the, the why examples of why we do the 95 cents, the 99 cents, or we do an even number, the psychological part of that. So again, that's in the manager's memo on page 91. So the Q factor, that refers to all food items that are served with an entree. It's a way to recapture the cost of everything in an establishment that the customer sees as free because it's not on the final bill. Most places will include the Q factor only in the entree plate cost. So here is one of the examples they put. I'm not a big fan of all this. Most places, the starch, vegetable salad, those are not usually Q factored. That's going to be figured in on your whole plate cost. But the book does say that. But what you're looking for more is like your bread that's served at each table, or the butter, your condiments, salt and pepper, just the little things. Oh, this is how they figured it in. So, they didn't put the barbecue sauce. They didn't put in a Q factor in this example. Now, I think that would be something that would be in the Q factor. So this is something that's going to vary from establishment. It just depends on the cost of the item. Are you going to Q factor it, or are you going to put that into the plate cost instead? So this is where the book gets a little funky. I will go over what the book says, and then I will give you my feedback as well, because I just don't like the way it's set up. It's been very difficult in the past for other students as well. So I'll talk about analyzing the menu mix. It's also been referred to as your sales mix. So the menu product mix is a detailed analysis that shows the quantity sold of each menu item. It includes their selling price and their standard portion cost. It is used to determine the composite, or your potential food cost percentage, for all items. So this is just an average of all those items, not an individual item. But it needs to be able to meet that food standard cost percentage. Remember I said earlier, you're taking everything in now, and you're trying to hit that ideal. So you can see here, and we've always kept beverages separated. If you look, this is where this is what's keeping everything in line. And it gets even bigger when you sell alcohol. There is such a huge markup on alcohol. But this is what helps keep these other ones, like the French fries. Your onion, wow, they really have those. I mean, that lower one, that keeps all these guys in check. So right after they have this, they talk about the menu mix percentage. So it's the number of individual entrees sold divided by the total number of entrees sold. Will give you the MM percentage, the menu product mix. So I'll flip to the next one. I'll kind of show you more of what it's saying here. So we look at this example. We have our chicken breast. So for this time period, we sold 862 chicken breast dinners. So we want to take that number and divide it by your total. So that'll give us a 17.9%. So we know that, almost 18% of what we sold was chicken, and so on and so forth for all these. So we can kind of get a good idea. Wow, that cheeseburger, that's really popular. The chicken breast, but at what point is this unpopular? Is that pork chop? Is that popular or is that not popular? So that's what we're going to use the next formula for. Determining that menu popularity. So an item is assumed to be popular if it produces sales that are at least 70% of the share in the menu mix. So maybe we'll go on a little bit further. The item popularity, so you want to take that 70% and times it by the percentage of total sales. So that right there, so if you read the little paragraph below, I'm trying to, because this is important, but it does not fit into the next equation. So if you read the little chapter or the little chapter below, it says, for example, if the given menu item is expected to have 20% share of the total weekly sales for next week, it needs to have at least 14%. So it's showing the 70% of the 20 that's on there. But how that works into this next one is just giving us that 70%. So I follow the same example in the book. So if a restaurant serves 8 items, then you got that 100% divided by 8 will give you a 12.5 expected sales mix. And to calculate that menu popularity for an individual item is to take that 70% of the expected sales mix percentage. So you got that 12.5 times 70% will give you your index here. So it'll give us an 8.75. So that's our benchmark, I should say. Benchmark, that's the good word. So that's where we're going to know what's popular. So here's the 8 items. Divide that by the 100% will give us the 12. And then further go on to that 70% because that's what we know is popular. So I'll break it down here. So then we can look here and find out, was that really popular? So here it is. There was that pork chop. We're like, I don't know. 8.4, it seems like it, but didn't quite hit that mark. We needed the 8.75. So it was only 8.4. So overall, it looks like this menu is split on low and highs. So right here, after calculated, the percentage for each is compared to the benchmark to determine whether the item is popular or unpopular. So obviously, if it's above that percentage, it's high. If it's below, it's low. So determining the item contribution margin. So in order to identify how a menu item contributes to the potential food cost percentage, the product mix must be determined. So I'm not very big on how this whole page 101, that's where I'm at. I don't like the way this is explained. It's more on the difficult side, and I don't see how it all fits in, because this right here is just going over the whole entire menu at once. Yeah, I'm going to go over. So basically your contribution margin is your profit margin. So your sales price minus the cost will give you the contribution margin. So you take the individual item contribution margin and times it by the number amount sold. So I'll give you your your menu contribution for each item. Then you want to do that for each menu item. And then you're going to find the average contribution margin, which is the total menu items sold divided by that individual menu contribution margin. And then compare that back to the average. So I'll show you. I know that was a whole lot of words. So this right here is your menu engineering worksheet. So we're going to talk about this again kind of before and after this. So we'll stick with this chicken breast we've talked about before. So we've sold 867 of them in this time period. And we found out already it's almost at 18% popularity. So we know it cost $2.81, but we're selling it at $7.95. So there's our contribution margin right here, 514. So that's what's bringing down to the bottom line. And then you times that by how many sold. So your total menu cost is the $2,400 here. But then from what you sold right here, so you take that, the 867 times the 795 is what we have here. Why does my mouse keep disappearing? And then here's your total profit, your total contribution margin right here. So in order to find the average here, we want to take this number here and divide it into the total of all of them. That gives us a grand total of 635. So then we look over here and then we'll take the margin over here. So this is how we find whether it's high or low. The book does a terrible job at explaining this. Hopefully this is a little bit better. So then we know right here the 734 is our benchmark. 514, that's going to be low. Seafood, 664, just squeaked by on making that into the high. Steak dinner is killing it. That is a huge profit right there. That is definitely on the high side. So I hope that makes a little bit more sense than the book. Please email me if you have any questions about this. This is definitely a harder one to understand. I'm not going to be having you guys do a menu engineering. Well, actually, I will. We'll talk about it later, but it will be an extra credit assignment. Please, like I said, if this is not making sense, please email me. So we're going to assess the individual item performance, which is actually what we just did. I didn't like the way this was set up. So there are numerous software programs that will analyze the product mix. So the menu engineering is similar to analyzing the menu product mix, but also takes into account those contribution margins and the popularity. On the menu, items compete with each other. Some are more profitable, some have higher sales, and some are few or neither. So your stars, it's items with high popularity and high contribution margin, which means everybody's getting it and it brings in a lot of money. Then you have your plow horse. It's high popularity, but it doesn't bring in a lot of money. Puzzles. They're not very popular, but they have that high contribution margin. And then you have your dogs. Low popularity and low contribution margin. So if you look, we'll step back here. That's what we have over here. So we've already figured out this whole little section we've done on analyzing the market mix was all the steps needed to find out where this menu item is. And stars are obviously what you want. Dogs are what you do not want. Plow horses, those are good. Those are ones that are they're trucking through. They're making it happen. You need to try to figure out how to increase sales if you can increase the cost. Puzzles, you just need to find where it's popular. How to make it more popular, I should say. So we have the menu modifications and price adjustments. So there's 3 items that need to be examined and compared when considering modifications and adjustments to your prices. So you need to make sure you have your standard food cost, the potential food cost percentage based on that menu product mix, and then your actual food cost percentage from the income statement. If all 3 of those match, there seems to be no problem. If they do not match, this indicates problems that need to be investigated. So, is the menu the problem? Or is it the problem is operational? So to see if these exist, the potential food cost percentage should be compared with operations standard food cost. Guess I should have put some commas in this. I am sorry. Okay, compared with the operation standard food cost. Then the standard food cost minus the potential food cost will give you that variance. Compare this with any variance between the standard food cost on the budget and then the actual from the income statement, standard minus the actual. Check that variance as well. Then compare them against one another. If they are equal, it will be necessary to adjust that pricing structure. Now, operations may also be the culprit. This is usually the case if there is a variance between the standard food cost and the actual food cost. Now, if those don't match, there's something going on in-house. It's not the menu. Maybe it's ordering, receiving, portion cost, or portion size. So implementing revised prices. So if you look at the revenue forecast adjustments, managers need to be cautious and very methodical when making the price adjustments. They need to listen to what the customer and the service staff want to track your sales mix and profitability. As well, employ some common sense. You got to be able to still look at the big picture and not just go with what the numbers tell you. So by adjusting specific variables such as cost, pricing, menu placement, and presentation, an operation can maximize the profitability for each menu item. So thinking about revising the menu, there's several solutions that can be explored to bring the menu into agreement with the desired percentage. There's a wide range of solutions, and the solutions should be only pursued after careful and thoughtful consideration. After this video, there's another one that's going to go over even more stuff with this. So that is it for what I have. Like I said, I'm going to post another video. This guy does a great video. I'm definitely working smarter, not harder. I was going to put it in my presentation, but I really like what he has to say, so I'll put that on. Please email me with any questions. Like I said, this chapter has definitely been a stumper in the past. That is it. Thank you, everybody. Have a great week.